I'll wake you up.
Yeah, yeah, call me tomorrow.
Just make sure you sleep tonight.
Yeah, yeah, I will. I will definitely. Okay.
Bye, madam.
Bye bye.
All the best.
You too.
And Bobby, just to let you know, I've just asked for the for everyone to be muted, um and I think that should work in a second, but the recording has started.
1 second. Wait.
Thank you. The recording will be, I think, put on YouTube afterwards, but there will be a link sent to you all. Okay, it's quieted down a little bit now, so what I'll do is try and start our presentation.
Yeah.
So,
It's okay. I didn't use it.
let's give this a go, shall we?
Okay.
It's okay. I didn't use it. Yes, it's okay.
Can I just get a yes when you guys can all see my screen, please?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so as I said, we're going to be talking about communication skills and empathy. I don't know about you, Antonia, but this came up all the time in interviews. It was the one thing that you could guarantee would come up. So this is really a skill that if you can nail, will just absolutely help you in any interview you do, not just medicine related, I'd say. Would you agree, Antonia?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'd say that communication skills comes up in every single station that you will do. You're being sort of Sorry, I've just realised I was muted. Yeah, so I said that communication skills is something that will come up in every single station. So you're sort of being subtly assessed on it throughout your interviews. So yeah.
Perfect. So just moving on, if you could all scan this, then you'll be joining our webinar group. And if you can join Menti, I think this is the same thing. But just to keep it interactive, I'll be asking lots of questions, and if you all do not put answers in, I will be picking on people, just so we can get an idea of what you're thinking, more than anything else. Give you a couple of moments to do that. So just to note that if you can wait until the end for the links, we'll sort that out later, but you will get links to the recording. Perfect. Okay, so to start with, I want to ask a very open question, which is, what is resilience? I'll hide responses to start with, and then we will show them in a moment. But thinking about when you might have used resilience in your life, what could that look like? And why is it important? Just to get you thinking about that. Okay, so we've got a few answers coming in now, and persevering has come up a few times. Okay, overcoming setbacks, definitely. Not giving up. Lots of perseverance here. Fantastic. Okay. Let it keep going whilst we've got a few more coming in. So resilience is really important as a doctor because you'll be facing a lot of challenging situations, both emotionally and I think intellectually. So thinking about how to treat somebody, but also dealing with the strain of not always being able to do it perfectly, or it not going quite right and having to disappoint people. So these are some of the reasons why perseverance and resilience are important. And you might hear the phrase emotional resilience as quite a big buzzword, I'd say. Great. Okay. So next question is, what is empathy? Let me just hide your responses again. And I'll start a timer for 30 seconds. So just bearing in mind that empathy is a little bit different to sympathy. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. And we will talk about the differences in a minute, actually. So understanding, absolutely. Compassion. These are really good ideas, everybody. Definitely. And this is another one that's really, really important as a doctor, but also just as a human being, to be nice to other people and understand that not everyone's always onto their game. So when we talk about teamwork, And people go through challenging times and will react in ways we don't really expect. So just having some understanding for that perspective. Okay, so that's the end of responding. Um, so the next question is really, what is sympathy? And we'll discuss that versus empathy. Sorry, I'm just making sure my laptop is muted. So, Antonia, do you want to have a little bit of a go at saying what sympathy is?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's useful to think about it as a direct comparison to empathy. So the classic sort of saying that people describe empathy as is putting yourself in someone's shoes. So I think the idea of sympathy is being able to sort of feel sorry for someone, being able to understand why someone else might be upset. But empathy goes that one step further and thinks about if you had been in a similar position, how would you be feeling? How would that make you feel? So you're trying to take into account, really the feelings of individuals, sort of more than just surface level of, oh, they might be sad, or oh, this might not have gone so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And why, or I guess a general question to everybody, why is it important that we both empathize and have sympathy for people? When we're thinking about this, it's one thing to feel sorry for someone, but if we can't actually picture ourselves in a position, I guess it's hard to have full understanding and try and be as helpful as possible. I don't know if Antonia, you have a different opinion on that, but
No, I would agree absolutely. And I think as a sort of as a healthcare professional, if you weren't to display empathy, you might find clinical practice quite difficult. So, for example, if a patient is coming to you and they're particularly unwell and maybe their treatment plan hasn't gone as well as you'd hoped, it's not sort of unreasonable that you can imagine that patient being slightly upset with you, despite the fact you're trying your best. And having that empathy, being able to understand their position, their struggle, would lead you to sort of not take that personally and still work together with the patient. That's just an example of where you might use it on a day to day.
brilliant. And also the suggestions we've had in the chat. So someone may have passed away, someone may have died. How are you going to tell them if you're not empathetic? Hence, it's important, absolutely. If you've lost a loved one, I have, it's really hard to deal with as a person who's lost them. But then if you're not having a connection with your healthcare professional, they're not being very understanding, it makes the whole thing even more difficult. So just being aware of the other people involved, not just being a patient, but also the family of patients. Great. Moving on. So these are actually more MMI type questions that you might see. So what is the difference between empathy and sympathy? And we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but I will just talk you through what the ideal answer would be. So we've said already that sympathy is really feeling sorry for someone. Okay. But you may not actually understand what they're going through, or you may find it hard to visualize what they're going through, which can impact how you interact with them and therefore how you perform as a healthcare professional, how you behave. Whereas empathy is, again, understanding how someone else feels. And as Antonia said, the classic is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And it's like walk a mile in someone else's shoes to understand how they feel is kind of a phrase I've come across. Perfect. Okay. And this is a sort of scorecard you might come across if you're doing MMI practices. So the examiner will have this scorecard. It's very standardized for each MMI station. And what they're looking for is first that you are introducing yourself and being polite and showing a genuine motivation for your subject for wanting to do this. Recognize this as a realistic quality to expect people to have, and that you therefore need to be able to demonstrate it. And actually link it to your work experience. If there's one thing I would ask you to take away from today, is link everything back to work experience, be it volunteering, not necessarily in a hospital, any setting, and then linking that back to medicine and why that makes you more suitable. Okay, and showing an understanding of empathy and sympathy. Okay. So we have an MMI station here, and I was just wondering if anybody would be happy to give this a go, or if you'd like me to model it through with Antonia, what would people like to do?
I just want to say, because you're all muted, if someone would like to give it a go, you can use the raise your hand function and then we'll unmute you. So yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so we've had someone ask if we could model it. Oh, and we've got someone who may want to do it. So let me just find.
I think as a doctor, it's because people aged 11 to 15 might find it difficult to like get a consultation without their parent. So it might be something like the importance of confidentiality, because they might want to discuss one-on-one with the practitioner, and if their parents are really involved and they might feel uncomfortable. Also, like the Fraser guidelines, if they have the mental capacity to consent to treatment, or and if not, then parents do have to get involved, and if they might feel uncomfortable with that. So I thought.
That's really, really good. And I'll give you some more feedback in a minute, but I just want to let some other people also have a go. So let's try Deborah. Just asked you to unmute. Hopefully it's worked.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. So in the 11 to 15-year-old age group, some kids are just starting to go into senior school. So they may be sheltered at home, maybe during primary school and like with their parents. They may not have interacted much with other kids and gone out much, which people usually start to do when they're teenagers. So they may face problems like peer pressure and their friends asking them to get into drinking or smoking. They could experience bullying as well, bullying during school. And as doctors, this is something that we can educate teenagers about. And this is really important for us to do. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for giving that a go. Let me just unmute Chloe.
I was just wondering if we should sort of go through, so that we don't forget what everyone said, we could go through it maybe a tiny bit after each person.
Fine. Yep. Okay.
Because I was just going to say for Deborah, that was a really brilliant answer. And I think when you talked about those sort of those students being sheltered, or those children, you could reference like sort of them going through their sort of beginning of adolescence through maybe COVID, and how that might have had an impact on their abilities in social situations. And then for Barnan, I just want to mention, so the Fraser guidelines are the guidelines for giving contraception. And I think when you talked about the ability to consent in under 18s, that would be the Gillett competence. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to add.
No, thank you so much. That might be a better way of doing this actually. So I will get one more of the students to give this a go, and then we will move on, and everyone will have a chance at some questions. We'll get around there. There's just quite a few of you. So Eva, I think I've asked you to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Would you like to have a go?
So I'm a bit late to the party. I've just chimed in, so I hope this is the right direction for this question. It might not be. You mentioned a little bit there about the beginning of adolescence. I'm not sure if it fits under the social bracket, but I mean, a consideration for 11 to 15-year-olds is that there is a lot of hormonal change happening at that period in time, which I'm not sure if that would be relevant, but that was my 2 cents that might want to be taken into consideration, because could have an effect on how they're interacting with their peers, developing their personalities at that age due to the hormonal changes. So that was what I wanted to say.
No, that's fantastic. And if I were to sort of push you a little bit further and ask you, what do you think that would look like in somebody who's experiencing these hormone changes? What would the challenges actually be?
Well, access to products for one thing, like if you protect for females, but actually just for males as well, because they might start wanting more hygiene products, which might be difficult for some people to get hold of. I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. So that is definitely part of what I was looking for, but also trying to just take it a little bit further and think about I guess some of the things that have been mentioned in the chat are things like bullying. So experiencing how personality changes and clashes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Really well done.
Thank you.
Antonia, have you got any other feedback?
No, that was great.
Perfect. Okay. So this is what our good answer might look like. So when you have a question like this that's asking you for multiple things, it's always a good idea to have at least 3, if not 4 points to talk about. So you can always say at the start of an MMI station, after you've had that reading time, have a minute just to think and then come up with those full bullet points, whatever they might be. That's not to script it, that's just so you have an idea of what you're talking about. So for this question, it's really about putting yourself back into the shoes of an 11, 15-year-old and thinking what you may have faced and trying to explain that. So things like moving schools. So a few of you correctly identified that you'll be moving to secondary school, which can be emotional and quite difficult. Moving home even, moving country. That in itself is a huge transition and comes with a lot of challenges socially and challenges in terms of the family environment as well, with having a little bit instability, and with those hormonal changes that we just mentioned, that can make it even harder, which is mentioned in our adolescence point. So changes physically and mentally, and having access to different products, as was mentioned. Exam pressure. I'm sure you all know that GCSEs are very stressful, and thinking about your career choices and what you need to do next to get there. So these are just a few ideas. Social pressures, a lot of you identified that bullying is definitely one that children face in that age range, and social pressures as well. So I saw peer pressuring pop up in the chat, and mental health as well. So this is quite a common age for people to start developing things like depression and anxiety, but also eating disorders can occur at that age as well. So just having a think of very broadly what could be going on in these people's lives. But really well done to everyone who gave that question a go. Okay. So we don't have question slide for this. So the question that this station would have had, sorry, Antonia.
Yeah, so it says it's just an example of what challenges might a Brighton and Sussex University student face at in their first term, but it's basically just a continuation
Yes.
from the last one. So some more examples.
Yeah, exactly. So this would be a follow-on question from the previous question, and they might be asking you to link it back to what you'd be experiencing as a medical student at Brighton and Sussex University if you were to have this question. So think about making friends. The new home thing links very nicely. Being tired because you have freshers and there's so many people, and emotionally that's quite draining. And independent learning. So it's very different learning in a medical course or at university compared to A-levels. It's a lot more of it's on your own back and you have to take that initiative. So those are just some things to think about. Okay, so those are broadly ideas related to empathy and social situations. But there's also the other aspect of thinking about communication. And empathy is definitely in there. So you need to show empathy when you're answering your MMI questions. But the other things you need to try and demonstrate are that you can be clear and concise with your communication. That's really important in emergency settings, particularly. Showing an understanding of the situation and also actively listening. So that's not just sitting there passively, letting it go in one ear and out the other. It's actually engaging. So whether that's using your body language, sort of nod along and agree, or whether that's using facial expressions and open chest, things like that, which comes into our verbal and non-verbal communication. Okay. So just having a think about what empathy is important for now. I mentioned this term earlier, emotional resilience. Why is emotional resilience important in medicine? Does anybody want to have a go at answering that question? Okay.
Hi. Yeah. Can you hear me? Hi. So I think emotional resilience is important because as a doctor, you have to face so many physical, emotional, and mental challenges. And as a person, you just have to be strong to be able to deal with all of those type of situations and scenarios, and how to deal with like stress or the emotional aspect of medicine.
Amazing. And if I were to, oh, you've muted yourself again. Okay, I'll throw this to someone else. If I was to then ask, what would those emotional challenges actually be? What is it that you're having to deal with as a doctor? Let's ask Leona.
Hello.
Hi.
So some of the challenges a doctor would have to face would be like, I guess, surgeries or like patients that you've looked after dying and then you having to tell the relatives that, or even when you're just like studying medicine because it's such a hard kind of subject to study and it's quite stressful as well. So you really need resilience there. And the hours that you work, the amount of work that you do as a doctor, I feel like all of these would need a lot of resilience to get through.
Absolutely. And you've touched on some really important points there, that it's not just about when you're a doctor, which will have its own set of challenges. For example, breaking bad news is always going to be challenging. You will get trained on it in medical school, but that is probably one of the hardest things I'm aware of that you have to do, and facing things going wrong. And you've identified correctly that this is also something you need to think about in medical school. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Very cliche, but very true for medicine, because there's so much you need to learn about it. So having that emotional resilience, but also I say emotional insight, to be able to recognize when you're struggling and what you can do to try and help yourself a little bit, because that's also what comes with perseverance, is knowing how to adjust what's going on to try and get through it. Really well done. Thank you both for answering that question. Antonia, have you got anything you'd like to add to that?
No, actually, I think that was really good.
Great. Okay. So another question for you all to answer. Tell me about a time when you were resilient, and how do you think that might help with medicine? Remember, we always want to be linking that back. Okay, so if I ask Shreya, would you like to try and give that an answer?
Hi, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but
Can.
so I was doing work experience on a spinal ward, and a lot of those patients had attempted suicide. So I was listening to the stories of many, many patients who weren't going through the best times physically and emotionally. And I think it took a lot of emotional resilience to sort of understand so many different stories and to be able to persevere through that and try to communicate with them when it was a situation that I've never been in before.
Amazing. And how do you think that might help you in medicine?
I think just building my emotional intelligence and perseverance and learning how that works so that I can sort of apply the way I dealt with that in future situations.
Absolutely. And it's really good that you identified that it was so challenging. I'd say there's a little bit of a taboo that I've come across where people don't like mentioning that they found something hard, because we're all really intelligent people who are trying to apply ourselves academically. But emotionally, this is a challenging situation. And I'd say that you structured that really nicely by starting with a work experience point and then talking about what that actually was, what you were doing in it, and reflecting on that as well. So I'd say really well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more person. Precious.
Hello, can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes, we can.
There was a time during my biology class, I had an exchange student who had a seizure during the time we were dissecting hearts. And it took a lot of confidence to be able to go up and help him get in the recovery position. And it was very scary because my teacher didn't know what to do and she was screaming and everyone was panicking. And it was a really scary experience. Oh yeah.
Sounds like it's had quite a big impact on you from the way you're talking about it.
Yeah.
So how do you think that situation will help you in medicine?
I feel like it'll help me with situations when what's it called? When there's an emergency, I'm able to act quickly on that and focus on the needs of the patient. Yeah.
That's really good. And it's good that you demonstrated that you can work under pressure and also, I guess, summarize those key skills such as confidence, and recognizing that there was a lot going on around you. I would just try and pull up a little bit about what resilience is when you're answering that question. So can you try and like link in specifically what resilience is?
Resilience is being able to cope under pressure and not letting, I guess, the things around you distract you from what you really need to do.
Perfect. And that's exactly what I was hoping you'd pull out. So something really important to think about is MMI stations. These interviews have seen so many people in one day, and you want to try and be concise and get your point across as much as possible so they can give you as many marks as possible because they are there, they want to give you marks. But if you can be as direct as possible in answering questions, that allows them to do that. Okay. Really thank you, Precious.
Thank you.
Antonia, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to say, so I was going to say it anyway, and then I've seen a message in the chat that said, can the example you give be not medicine-based or patient-based? So it can be medicine-based or patient-based, so it can be something that you've seen on work experience, that's fine. But actually, this is also a really, really, really good opportunity to show the interview about one of your skills. So was it that you were resilient in a situation where you were leading a really big team and something had gone wrong, and then that's your opportunity to tell the interviewer about one of your really impressive extracurricular activities, or something like that. So it definitely doesn't need to be a patient scenario. It can be personal. In fact, I think it's really good if it is personal. So if it shows something that you've been doing outside of your studies to show like motivation behind medicine would be really good.
In fact, if anybody has an example like that and wants to share it, that'd be really fantastic, and we can all learn from that together. So if I can ask, sorry, just going through the list now. If I go with Angel, can you try and think of one that isn't necessarily patient related? Sorry, Angel, I can't hear you. I don't know if that's just me. Okay, we might have to try someone else. Krish?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. So can you tell me about a time where you were resilient that wasn't patient focused necessarily? It was in an extracurricular activity.
So, I volunteer at a local a local second-hand shop, and it was only a few weeks ago that we were having such like a large influx of donations, and at that time I was the only one I think among two or three others that were kind of handling them. So we were getting about 10 bags of say like clothes, shoes, and like whatnot, about every 15 or so minutes. So I felt I and my team were resilient in that it's like a question of really powering through, but not powering through mindlessly. Like um if you're feeling you're under pressure, you can like create your own system to like kind of like divert that pressure. I think that's being resilient. And in that situation, we actually used some of the people on the or who were volunteering on the shop floor as well to try and reduce the pressure on us and try and get through as many donations quickly and efficiently.
Great. And can you reflect and tell us a bit about how that might help you with medicine?
Well, as I previously mentioned, that being resilient isn't just like withstanding pressure without doing anything about it. So in that situation, my team and I, we actually did something about it, and I think it's also synonymous with life, yeah, at medical school and also as a medical professional, because uh, you might have to be independent and create some of your own ways to divert that pressure. And I feel that's what being resilient really is, and how it kind of intertwines with like medical life.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Krish. So, just for everybody, that's really demonstrating how you can take a situation that seems unrelated to medicine or science, such as working in a charity shop, and make it really relevant. So, we had a few things going on there. We had teamwork, we had actually having a little bit of personal insight into how you were managing a situation and being resilient and finding a way to solve the problem so that you can reduce the pressure and keep everyone functioning. And then we linked it back to medicine and working as a medical student, but also as a medical professional. It's not just one or the other, it's both of them. And what I thought you did really nicely as well, I'm not sure if anyone's come across this technique before, but the STAR technique, so STAR, so S standing for situation, T standing for task, A for action, and R for reflection. So I did need to prompt Krish for the reflection part a little bit, but Krish gave us a situation. So that being in the charity shop, it being very busy, having lots of donations coming in. The task was we had to sort out the donations as quickly as possible. The action was we got people off the shop floor to try and help reduce the pressure. And this is relevant because, which is our reflection. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much, Krish. And let's do, I think someone mentioned they had a another one. So let me have a quick look. In C.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Could you ask the question one more time, please?
Of course. So can you tell me about a time that you were resilient in some sort of extracurricular rather than medical related? And how do you think it might help you in medicine?
Okay. Well, at school, I coach for my local tennis club. I'm a volunteer coach, and we coach for, like little children around like 5 to 10 years old. And there's always like a difficult child, as in they don't want to cooperate, and they just sit in the corner, and they don't listen to my instructions or anything. So having to learn how to adapt my language and adapt my body language to suit each child really tested my patience and resilience as well. And something that I would take forward from that experience into medicine is learning to adapt my language and body language to different patients and not just children. And I can apply that into my practice in the future.
Amazing. And can you tell me a bit more about what it was exactly that showed that you had resilience in that scenario? Sorry, I think we're muted again.
Could you repeat that again, please?
Sorry, of course. So can you tell me a bit about how directly you used resilience in that scenario? So you talked a lot about communication there, which is fantastic, but bringing it back to resilience.
Okay. For me, it was being resilient as in having to face a new situation that I don't deal with every day. And having to learn how to change in each situation differently really built my resilience.
That's great. Thank you so much. So yes, the only reason I asked you to do that is because you did perfectly explain why adapting language is really important, but we lost a little bit of why resilience is important. So just being really careful about that question, because you demonstrated there that, you know, this was a tough situation because you've never faced it before, and you deal with that quite a lot. So you're dealing with new situations all the time, and you have to be able to be adaptable. That's how you're being resilient. So that was a really good answer, and thank you so much for letting me challenge you a little bit on that.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to the next part of this. So the next question is, what methods can I use to show empathy? So I'll give everyone a second to take their hands down if they don't want to answer this question. And if anyone does want to answer this question, I will ask in a second. Okay. Ashia, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, sure. So I was thinking about the verbal and non-verbal cues that you can show and like that how that relates to active listening. So you would probably want to face them and nod whilst you're listening to them and things like that that show that you're listening.
Great. And is there anything else you can do to show empathy that you can think of?
Probably like asking them questions about the scenario to show that you're engaged and like telling them that you also understand what they're going through and sort of putting yourself in their shoes.
Exactly, which is how we defined empathy at the start, wasn't it? Putting yourself in their shoes. Thank you so much for answering the question, Ashia. And yes, asking questions shows that you're engaged. And if you ask questions in response to what they've said, that is a form of active listening, because it shows that you're taking on board what they've said and you're reflecting on it and you're asking questions. And another nice thing too sometimes is listen to what they say, sort of summarize what they've said, and then ask them, is that what you mean? Just to double check. And it really does show someone that you are listening to them. I'll let one more person answer. So, Mariam?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, so I did volunteering at a dementia ward, so I feel like having to show empathy and being adaptable and flexible in the ways you show empathy, whether, as previously mentioned, verbal and non-verbal communication, being able to respond to what they're saying, make sure you don't interrupt them, active listening, making sure you have open body language. In one of the training we had to do before volunteering, they told us that 80% of communication is through body language. So by making sure you have an open body language, you're looking at them, it's like the really simple things, I think make a huge difference, especially what I noticed in the dementia ward, and just being there for them. Yeah.
Amazing. And just to dig that a little bit further, Miriam, can you give us a specific example maybe of when you were on the ward and you showed that?
You did. On the top of my head, the first instance I thought of was when I saw this lady who was crying, and she said that recently she found out that her husband had died. And at that moment, I felt like I didn't know what to do. So I grabbed a chair, I sat next to her, and this was quite a risky move. But I asked her, can you tell me a bit about your husband? What was he like? And even though it was really emotional for her and really hard to talk about, I made sure I was there for her. I held her hand and just like, to me, it was quite natural being able to like show her that I was interested, because I really was. And she was talking about how like the small things he did for her, like making breakfast in bed, and she always had waffles and stuff. But yeah.
Amazing. And why did you do those things?
I think it's because I knew what it would feel like if I wanted someone, like if I was going through the same thing, what I would want someone to do for me. And I knew that personally I would want to talk. If obviously she didn't want to talk, I'd obviously understand, a step away, give her some space and then check on her. But yeah, being able to put myself in her shoes and see what I would want someone to ask me or to tell me what to do, or not tell me what to do, but like what I would want someone to ask me or to think about, or yeah, how I would someone to comfort me.
Perfect. And that again really illustrates that you know what empathy is just by explaining why you did that, because you were putting yourself in her shoes. You were trying to say, this is what I'd want if I was in this situation. I'm going to try and be there for this person. So thank you so much again, Miriam, for answering that question and giving us a very nice example as well that really showed that you did listen to this person and you did try your hardest to be there for them. So I thought that was a really lovely example. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if Antonio wants to give any feedback.
No, yeah, I thought that was great. I think for the sort of methods used to display empathy, I think a lot of it really depends on sort of who you're talking to. So I think, Mariam, your example of talking to a patient with dementia was really interesting. So when we talk to elderly patients, we want to be aware of things like, do they have any hearing difficulties? If so, let's say they have a hearing difficulty in their right ear, are we making sure that we're talking in their left ear? Like things like that, very specific to individual patients. If we're talking to like the pediatric population, for example, somebody was a tennis coach, I can't remember who gave the answer. Are we getting down onto their level? And are we making sure that they can understand us? So yeah, kind of massively depends on who you're talking to, which is why your guys' specific examples were really useful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Antonia. So we've got our next MMI practice station. So this is really asking you to think about being able to understand people from different backgrounds from yourself, which is what the question demonstrates. So the sort of theme for this question is communicating with people of different backgrounds, and it's asking you, why do you think this is important at a university like ours? Now, we don't have a specific university, but that's not really important here. I want you to try and reflect on why it's important to be able to communicate with people and why it's important you encounter these people. So let's see who would like to answer that first. Shreya, do you want to have a go?
So I think it's really important to be able to fluently communicate with people from different backgrounds, because in life and even as a doctor, you'll be meeting a lot of different people with very different backgrounds to you. And I think at starting from university, it's good to get in contact with lots of people so you can take the time to understand and respect different people's backgrounds and their culture, so that you can have an effective conversation and effectively communicate with them, and gain their trust and just have a worthwhile conversation with both parties, feeling like they've understood each other quite well. I think in university as well as just in a career, you won't always be communicating with the same people that you have met once. You'll be communicating with a lot of different people, especially, for example, if you're a doctor working in a multidisciplinary team with a lot of colleagues from different backgrounds, or talking to patients from different backgrounds and different age groups. So being able to be tolerant and understanding of the views of each person will help you to effectively process what's going on or problem solve, and just come to a conclusion that everyone agrees with. Yeah.
Amazing. And if you can stay unmuted, I have a follow-up question to that, which is, what have you learned in your experience of speaking to diverse groups of people from different backgrounds?
So when I was in primary school, my primary school was a very small, tight-knit group of people and who I was with for a long time. And even when coming into secondary school, I surrounded myself with a lot of the same groups of people. So when I did the NCS course, I guess, during the half term of year 12, I met a lot of different people, and I met a lot of different types of people from different types of backgrounds and from a different geographical area as well, which was surprisingly important, because I could understand the cultural differences geographically, even though it's same country, same relative area, that I could still see a lot of cultural differences. So when we were doing a problem-solving task on our very first day, I had taken some time before to get to know my by peers, so that when we went into doing our task, we were able to direct the conversation to match the strengths of each person in the group and have individual input from each person, so that when we came to actually solving the problem, we could all come to a conclusion that we all agreed with, and that we were able to communicate to each other in a respectful manner, which I thought was really important.
Excellent. And you've really nicely reflected that you need to adapt your teamwork and how you approach your teamwork there to fit people's beliefs and I guess their culture as well, from what I'm understanding. So that was really nicely done, really well done. And acknowledging that it is about respect and it's about accepting people for who they are because they have every right to be who they are. So that's a really excellent example. Okay, thank you so much, Shreya. So let's ask one more person. Ooh, someone's tried to share a screen. Let me go back to my screen. Can everybody see my screen again?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Would anybody like to have a go at this question? If you can raise your hand, that'd be great. Okay, I've got a couple of people. Angel, let's give this a go again.
Hello.
I can hear you this time. Excellent. Okay, so if I ask you the question, why do you think it's important that you encounter different people from different backgrounds at a university like ours? Why is it important?
I feel like when you're going to university, it's going to be very diverse and very inclusive place. So having that empathy, being able to become more welcome, making new friends, all of that supportive environment, and also for, like they said before, teamwork and leadership. So you'll be able to be in a lot of group projects and extracurricular activities. And when it comes to that, I think communication and empathy is very important. And also, university is going to be very different from our secondary school, our GCSE and A levels, because it's like we're developing for the real world, the professional world, going into a more so if it's medicine, we're going to be in more of the medical field, is preparing ourselves for the real world.
Okay, and how does that link to people with different backgrounds?
So a different background. So if it's university, we're surely going to meet lots of different culture background people. Even if it's like also in the medical field, when it's like multidisciplinary, the multi-team, like doctors, nurses, and talking with them, patients, getting to know them, and different ages. And also when we're making friends, also different cultures.
Definitely. And as before, if you can stay unmuted, I'll ask you the same question. What have you learned in your experience of speaking to diverse groups of people from different backgrounds?
So actually, I did my GCSEs in India. And so when I came to A level, that was a very big jump. So I had to face a lot of challenges with like meeting people from different backgrounds. And it taught me that when meeting people with different backgrounds, it's going to be a bit difficult, but showing that having that communication skills and the empathy and being able to open up to them and showing that more welcoming spirit will be able to help you go through the challenges.
Excellent. Really well done. So you've acknowledged that when you come to university, it'll be very different, and when you go into the workplace, it's a very different environment, a very different landscape, and it shows that you really have a realistic insight of what your career is going to be involving. Just so you know, it's multidisciplinary teams. I struggle to say that as well. I'd practice saying that because that's one you may want to bring up if you understand that. That's really good as a concept. And I like that you mentioned inclusivity because it's really important from a public health point of view to try and include people from lots of different diverse backgrounds and ensure that everyone is getting the same message. For example, don't smoke, and having the resources to quit smoking if they needed to, for example. Excellent. And I really liked your example, your personal example. Again, really highlighting that you don't have to have a medical example to communicate a situation and show that you understand something. So just moving the slides forward a bit, and thank you, Angel. You need to adapt your approach, and this is something that both of our students here today have reflected, is that you need to be able to change depending on the circumstance, and it's really important to be accepting of other people and respectful and tolerant. Okay, a lot of the time we'll find that actually that adds to the team because they'll bring something, a perspective that you've never thought about that's actually really helpful and really valuable. So please be respectful of your colleagues and try to make yourself a little bit more accepting if that's something you struggle with. Linking to personal experiences, absolutely fantastic, both of you. And I'm glad that neither of you strayed into the idea of making stereotypes. So this can be very easy to do, is we stereotype people. We're human beings, we're kind of programmed to put things into boxes. But it's really, really important that you're careful not to put too much, emphasis on that. For example, very commonly we can think of racism or, gosh, gone out of my head now, assigning certain characteristics to certain groups that aren't necessarily true. Stereotyping. You're also really positive about that, about mixing with other people who have different perspectives, and that's exactly what we want. Okay, Antonia, have you got any further feedback you want to give on that question?
No, I think that's that. You answered that really well. I was just going to say that we're going to leave the last 5 minutes, probably at the same time as the Q&A for the review. Yeah, that I think it's that.
Yes. So in these last 5 minutes, if you want to scan this QR code to leave us a review on, I think it's Trustpilot.
I think it should be the next one, guys, if you go on to the next page.
Sorry. And it will allow you to enter for a chance to have a place on our MMI circuits, which is 1 hour, 1 hour free tutoring with one of our tutors like me or Antonia. And yes, good luck to everybody on that. Time now is kind of questions. So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask about communication, about empathy? Yeah, Isabel, would you like to go ahead? Okay, I've tried to unmute you, but I don't think that's working. What about Eva?
Hello. It's not strictly about empathy. I hope you don't mind. I am curious. You followed up with some questions during these practices, and I just wondered if that might occur in a real MMI scenario, that you would get asked follow-up questions if you don't articulate well enough the first time round.
My understanding is that occasionally they will ask you questions, but it tends to be that they'll have a strict sort of set of questions that they have to ask you anyway. Antonia, do you have any other things to say about that?
I think some interviewers sort of, if they think you might be on the wrong path or you're sort of nearly there and you maybe slightly misinterpreted, they will definitely sort of redirect you. And yeah, they're likely to ask you follow-up questions, but the idea is they try and keep it as standardized as possible to give all students the same opportunity. So they might not necessarily go off what you say unless it's related to the station.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Part of the reason I was asking those extra questions was to try and dig it out a little bit, because I know some people had the ideas and this is a practice environment, so just trying to really get those ideas
Great, I
solidified.
love it. I wish it was like that in the real thing, but
I promise with lots of practice you will feel comfortable answering as if there were follow-up questions, so don't worry. Any other questions for anybody? Okay. Fatin?
Hello.
Hi, I can just about hear you.
I just wanted to ask, if you were to be in an interview and the interviewer was to ask you like a question that you felt very strongly about, as in if it was like an ethics question, but like I've been told that I can't really put out my viewpoints, that I like things that I feel about it. I've been told to like balance an argument on both sides, but what if I don't want to do that? Would I be like marked down for having a strong opinion on something?
So it's important that when you first start answering, you explore both points of view. They want to see that you have the ability to do that. A bit like we were saying with accepting other people's perspectives. They want you to be able to say, this is one side of the argument, this is the other, this is my opinion. That's fine. That I think is absolutely fine, as long as you're you're also thinking within the realms of the GMC guidelines, and you're not, say, going, well, I think we should just give everyone's personal data away for whatever reason. A little bit of logic and common sense, but I don't see any reason why you can't give your opinion, as long as you've given some balanced opinion before that. That is really important. Antonio?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's see if there's any more questions.
Just a quick one, guys, before the students leave.
Yes.
If anybody left a review, by the way, guys, if you just put your name in the chat or just reply with any comment on there, because I just need to keep a register of those who have left a review so that we can pick a winner out. So just as a reminder, there's quite a few of you here. We are picking 1 or 2 students who leave a review for us to get either the MMI circuit, 1 hour free tutoring. So if you guys can do that and just leave your name, then I'll write your name down on the spreadsheet we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I actually think that might be the end of the time we have for today, but we will be back here next week. Is there something anyone wants to say now?
Yeah, I was going to say, if anyone else has any questions, make sure you jot them down and you can bring them to the session next week and we'll try our best to answer them.
And thank you so much for being so engaged today, everybody. It's been really lovely to be able to hear some of your thoughts as well and your experiences.
Thank you so much, Bobby and Antonia. I'm sure the students found that very useful. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. And yeah, I'll stay in the meeting, but whoever is happy with the session today and happy to leave, I'll just be staying back, but you can leave whenever you're free. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
I think some students are asking how they'll find about the free tutoring at MMI. So we have your names on the registration form that you originally filled in. We're asked to email your name and what year you're applying. So I will be able to get, I'll just be able to get the names off of there basically. And I'm just writing some of your names down now. Dia, there is one next week at Wednesday, 6 till 7 p.m. That's the last one that we're running free for all students to join. If you wanted to join for any future ones, we are running these for like £20 a month. So if you wanted to join that, you should have received an email. We will be sending a batch of emails out with the links to book. But if you want that, just let me know. I'll send it on the Zoom chat too. I've sent the link for the group chat for anybody who wanted it. I've also attached a link for the webinars for future ones. The recording for this one should be on YouTube, so you just need to search up Medic Mind. And the information, if you wanted the school, you wanted to know the schedule of the virtual schools, it should be on that link above that I've just attached.